Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're having a lovely day. Today I'd like to answer a question that I got in the community Discord. I'll post a link to that down below for anybody who wants to see. This is going to be a two-pronged answer to a question on passion, finding a career, leveling up in a career, and how you do that. And I think something that a lot of young people get told that I think is complete bullshit when it comes to finding a new career. So what I'd like to discuss is the concept of passion first. There's this idea that you should do what you are passionate about. You should just seek to do what you are passionate about or what you love, and then you'll never work a day in your life. And I think to some extent that this is bullshit. Because the thing is, a lot of people see that and they think, okay, I'm going to find what my favorite hobby is and turn it into my job, rather than finding what it is I'm good at and turning that into my job. There's a big difference between finding what you are good at, becoming passionate at what you're good at because you're able to produce something amazing for the world and make people happy, and then versus just, this is a hobby that I like to do, I'm going to try to turn that into my job and then be miserable when I suck at my hobby and nobody wants to pay me for it and I'm broke. See, the thing about what I do right now is I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I do not have passion for reballing SMCs. I don't have passion for having to go through a bin of dead motherboards to find a system management controller chip. Half of them will probably not work because I can't buy a new one, put 96 little solder balls on there, and then put it onto another board only to figure out 2 hours later that it still doesn't work after reading through a 76-page schematic to try to figure out what's going on with it. That's not something that I find to be particularly exciting. What I used to like when I was a teenager, what I was actually found interesting, was trying to become a recording engineer. I thought that would be fun. What is it that makes this album from the same band sound so bad and this album from the same band sound so amazing? Like, why does this sound horrible and this sound great? I thought that it was incredibly interesting to try and figure out what it is that can make different albums sound differently, and I wanted to be a part of that process. I found it fun. The problem is that as much time as I put into it, I suck. I mean, let's be honest. Anybody who remembers me from my recording studio days, I suck. I have no idea how to make an album sound good. I have no idea how to get good sound. Like, I just suck. It's not for me. I was very good at fixing recording studio gear, and when I would be able to make something work again at a recording studio right before a session started, when a client was mad, everybody would be happy with me when I was able to make something work. I could see that there was a client that otherwise would not have gotten to record music that got to record something amazing that day because of me. So even though I don't necessarily enjoy doing all the fix-it work, what I found is that when I do the fix-it work and it makes other people happy, and then I can actually see the fruits of my labor, which is that something was able to be created that otherwise wouldn't have been able to be created, I then was able to develop a passion for being a repair tech that I didn't start with. But that passion came from several things. A, being able to make money at what I do. B, that money being able to support the lifestyle that I wanted. C, being able to be respected by my peers because I was good at what I did. D, being able to see the outcome of my work, being able to see that people's lives were better off as a result of me doing my work rather than worse off than me doing my work, which, let's face it, if any of you ever got to hear my recording demos, a lot of people's lives are worse off because of my work back then. And that's the case with what it is I do now. I don't find running 90 different wires on a board fun. I don't find searching through a 76-page schematic fun. I don't find trying to figure out why a board is randomly kernel panicking when there is no liquid or physical damage on it to be particularly exciting. But when a customer comes in the store who has said, Apple told me it would be $2,000 and I can fix their problem for $300, and they're happy, and I'm able to pay a staff of people that otherwise would have had crappier jobs, and we're all able to live independently and have decent lives as a result of it, that's what it's about. It's about seeing the outcome of our work. So this idea that you should do what you're passionate about, it's not about find your hobby, even if you're not really necessarily that good at your hobby and nobody wants to pay you for your hobby because you suck at it, and try to turn that into your job. That's not what I think about when I think about the idea of doing what you're passionate about. And that wasted several years of my life because I kept trying to do what I was passionate about so that I would never work a day in my life. And in reality, what I did is I kept pursuing something that I sucked at. And it was something that nobody in their right mind would want to pay me for, which is why I made $400 a month or less during that entire period of my life. Doing what you're passionate about means is it means doing something that you're so good at, that you're able to add so much value to the world by doing, that you actually feel better as a result of it. And one of the ways that you're going to feel better about whatever it is you're doing is if you're good at it. When you have a customer that gives you a hug because you were able to recover pictures of their spouse that died in a plane crash when somebody else said, I'm sorry, I can't get your data. And on top of it, you actually get to make money doing it. Enough money that you could actually live a halfway decent life and be able to start a family. When you're able to do that, you'll actually find some passion at that point in picking an SMC off of a board and putting 96.25 millimeter solder balls on it, or whatever it is that you need to do to be able to do your job. You will become passionate about the things that you thought you hated when you can see what the outcome is as a result of it. When you can see that you are now more respected in your community, when you can see that people look up to you, when you can see that you're able to make money at it, when somebody actually gives you a hug because the Apple Store said, again, $1,200 to $2,000, there's no way we can get your data, and you're able to get their data for 1/4 the price. That's going to make you feel good, and you'll find passion in something you probably never thought you would have been passionate about before. That is what I mean when I say that passion is, in my opinion, bullshit. Eli, the computer guy, has many videos in the past on why he believes passion, when it says do what you're passionate about, is bullshit. And he talks about it from the money point of view, but he's never really talked about it from the community point of view, from the fact that when you actually are doing work that has that level of value, and you know that you're responsible for that building getting built, you're responsible for this car being able to drive and that person being able to make it to their brother's funeral, you're responsible for this person having their data again, you're responsible for this person being able to complete their PhD thesis in time. It changes things, and it makes those little tasks that no person in their right mind would ever be passionate about doing because it's just mundane and aggravating, and it turns it into a fun, exciting challenge that makes you feel like you're not actually working even when you are. And I wish more guidance counselors would talk about this. The next piece of this has to do with this whole idea that, again, a job is simply just a job. I've heard people say this, and I've heard people say this who are interns back when I used to work at the studio. I've heard people say this when I've had students at this store when we were teaching board repair classes, and I've heard people say this in relationships, because nowadays, there are women that I've met that don't really feel like they would feel comfortable with a relationship until they are on the level of the man that they are with. And this is an interesting one, because one of the things that I've told people that will say that, and I'll just say this out loud, is you're never going to be able to get up to this level if you believe that this is just a job. If you clock out at 4 o'clock and that's it, or even while you're at work, you just do whatever it is you're supposed to do and that's it, you are never, ever, 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 ever going to catch up to the level of people that view what they do as a craft. As I mentioned in that Slipperman video about the eulogy for Tim Giles 3 weeks ago, he was one of the people that sees it as a craft. When the band would leave at 12 a.m. or 1 in the morning, he would stay there screwing with shit for an extra 3 hours just to figure out something, just to learn something, not even to be able to make the money, just because it pissed him off that he had a question that he did not have an answer to, and he wanted that answer for the next client so he could be that much better. Not for the money, because he cared about what he did as a craft. Those people are always going to be ahead of you in their career than somebody who sees what they do as just a job. And this is something that I think is important to understand. I'm not where I am because I'm smart or because I started with money or because I have a brain. I definitely don't have much of a brain. But it's because I see whatever it is I do as a craft. If you are somebody that was doing board repair or has a shop like this, and again, you clock out at 8 o'clock, that's fine. I respect it. It is what it is. When I used to have a board that I couldn't figure out, I would go home. I'm not kidding. This happened to me about 6 or 7 years ago. I had a board that I couldn't figure out. I went to sleep. I had a dream about this board. And at 3 in the morning, I woke up, and the dream had a solution in it. I rode my bike to work. I worked on the board at 4 in the morning. I recorded it, and I actually wound up posting that video to YouTube with the solution, and I fixed it. I figured it out. If you're the person that says this is just a job, I'm only going to learn about this during these hours of the day, I'm only going to put in the time and effort during these hours of the day, you're always going to be behind the lunatics, like me, that say, that are just constantly thinking about it. Because again, to them, it is not just a job, it is an actual craft. They are always going to be ahead of you. They are always going to be one step ahead. They're always going to be developing in their career because they're thinking about it all the time. You're not. Now, it's absolutely fine if you're not thinking about these things all the time. If you are in a competitive industry, I think it is important to understand that while it is important to have a work-life balance, if you are working with people that have that type of mentality or have that type of mindset, that this may not be the proper industry for you if you are not willing to put in that level of work and effort. If you are working in a competitive industry and you have people that live, breathe, and eat this shit, and you just kind of want to punch in and punch out, maybe you are in the wrong industry. Maybe this is not the particular particular profession for you, whatever that profession may be. Now, for the I know what some people in the anti-work crowd may say. Usually this comes up when I say, whatever you do, you should see it as a craft and seek to do it as best as humanly possible. I will often hear people say, well, I only make $11 an hour. Why would I do that for my employer? And I think that's missing the point. When you see what you do as a craft and you constantly seek to improve at it over and over and over and iterate and get better and better and better and better and better, you're not doing that for your employer that gives you $11 an hour. You're doing that for you. When I worked at Avatar Studios, I made $7.50 per hour, but I always sought to do the best possible work that I could, and I always sought to improve as much as humanly possible. Not because I gave a crap about Avatar Studios, although admittedly it was a really cool studio at the time, not because I thought Avatar Studios deserved that level of effort when I made $7.50 an hour, but rather because I knew that when I left, I wanted to be able to take that skill set with me, and I wanted to develop myself as much as I could so that I could carry that to something else. I started doing freelance audio gear repairs around 2008. That didn't really last very long because I wound up starting this business afterwards, but everything that I learned there and all the effort that I put in there translated over into what I do here. The thought processes, the way that I will just prep a board that I'm working on, the mindset when I'm troubleshooting, all of the things that I developed there, all the habits I developed there, they copied over here, which is why I'm glad that I put in the level of effort that I did, even though I was only making $7.50 an hour. When I make that statement, it's very often misunderstood, and people will say, I only make $11 an hour. Why would I put that in that level of effort for my boss? And you're not putting that level of effort in for your boss. You're putting that level of effort in for yourself so that you develop those habits and those thought processes and those routines so that when you actually start your own business or get a better job, that they will carry over. But above all, you never know who's watching. You never know who's going to notice. As I've said, at this particular store, most of my employees are employees that I've taken from other companies that either paid less money or treated their staff like trash. And the way that I figure out which ones are the good ones are by going into those different stores, going into those different places, and seeing how they're doing their job. If I see somebody treating everything like it's their business and doing this amazing job and they're perfectly organized, but they're only making $12 or $13 an hour, I'll walk in, I'll say, listen, man, I'll pay you 2 or 3 times as much if you're willing to work here. I see the quality of work you do. I don't know if people are BSing me in a job interview. It's impossible to tell that. But if you see the work that they're actually doing in real life, it's very easy to kind of get an idea and go, I'm pretty sure they'd be willing to do that for me too, because they already work here. The employer is kind of stuck with them. So it's one of those things that not only will it help prepare you for your own business or the next job by having having that mentality and those routines, it's also something that will make it easier for other people to see where you're at and pluck you away and for your career to keep going up and up and up. This is something I remember telling a student a long time ago. He said, I want to be on your level. And I just I said it on day one because he said he sees this as just a job. This is the time he's willing to put in. He didn't read any of the sheet that I sent him before the class, which he was supposed to. And I told him point blank, you are never going to be on my level. You see this as just a job. I would do this shit even if I wasn't getting paid. I can't tell my customers that, and I probably should edit that out of this video so it doesn't get posted to YouTube where everybody could see it. But I do it for the fun of the craft. The money is just a bonus that comes afterwards. And if you're competing with people that do this for the fun of the craft, if you're competing with somebody like Paul that's probably thinking about a freaking board issue at 2 or 3 in the morning and comes in the next day and solves it, then you're going to lose. You're always going to be behind those people. You're never going to catch up to their level, which is why I think it's very important to find something that you can see as a craft. Whatever it is, if you can see what you're doing that way and you can kind of see it as a game that each day you try to get a little bit better at, not to benefit your boss, but to benefit yourself, that'll help you a lot. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.